This is the video I wish I had seen in high school or college. Society and school have done a terrible job teaching you how to manage your money and build wealth. Despite attending Duke for my undergraduate and the Wharton School for my MBA, these prestigious universities taught me nothing about personal finance. Money is a really touchy subject, and the people that are rich and successful don't like talking about it or sharing details. So, unless your parents are wealthy and have taught you everything they know about money, you're at a pretty big disadvantage for building wealth. I was fortunately able to achieve over $1 million in net worth before the age of 30, and I'm making this video to teach you everything I've learned about how to build wealth. This is by no means financial advice, and you should do whatever you think is best at the end of the day, but I'm confident you'll take away at least a few new ideas and perspectives that will help you live a richer, fuller life. There are only two equations you need to know when it comes to building wealth. Don't be scared away by this math. This is simple and intuitive. The first equation is income minus taxes minus spending equals savings. Income is the money that you make. For most people, that comes from working a job. However, you don't get to keep all the money that you earn. You almost always will have to pay taxes, which reduces how much money you actually get to take home. Next comes your spending. These are the things that you purchase with your money. For example, paying for groceries, rent, and electricity. After subtracting taxes and spending from your income, you are left with your savings. This is the extra money that you haven't spent. Savings is really important because it's the amount of money that you have to invest. Investing is how you can make your money work for you. It's how your money can make you even more money. The second equation is investments times rate of return times time equals wealth. Again, the amount you can invest is determined by how much you can save. Rate of return measures how much your money makes each year. Does it make you just a little bit, or does it make you a lot? Time refers to how long you hold on to your investments for. The longer you invest in something, the more money you'll make. When we put all three of these things together, this becomes our formula for building wealth. Now here comes the most important part. Looking at these equations, if you want to build as much wealth as possible, there's only 5 things you need to do. Increase income, decrease taxes, decrease spending, increase rate of return, and increase time. If you can do all 5 of these things, that is how you can build wealth as efficiently and quickly as possible. We can easily spend over 100 hours talking about each of these 5 things, but instead, I'm going to boil it down for you in under 30 minutes. These are the biggest things I've learned that helped me achieve over $1 million in net worth before the age of 30. Let's start with increasing income. This is the most impactful thing that you can do to build wealth. There are 3 important points you should know. Point number 1. People who switch jobs make 10 to 20% more than those who stay in the same job. Why is this? When you stay in the same job, your employer is not incentivized to give you raises. They know that switching jobs takes a lot of work. It requires updating your resume, applying to different companies, and going through several rounds of interviews. So, employers give their employees annual raises of only 3 to 5%, which is enough to keep most people from quitting. When you switch jobs, your new employer needs to pay you significantly more to incentivize you to leave your current company. That is why the biggest promotion or raise that you'll ever get will usually come from switching jobs. So, keep your eye open for new opportunities and interview for new jobs every 2 to 3 years to ensure that you are getting paid well. Point number 2. The next point is that the career you choose determines how much money you can potentially earn over your lifetime. For example, a teacher might start out making $40,000 to $50,000 per year and max out at making $100,000 per year. If a teacher wants to make $200,000 per year, that will be nearly impossible. A professor, on the other hand, might start out making $80,000 to $150,000 per year and max out at $300,000 to $500,000 per year. So, if a teacher wants to make $200,000, they will have a much better chance if they make a career switch to being a professor. If you have hit the max compensation in your current career and want to make more, consider making a switch into a related career or even different career that has a higher earning potential. The one career path that has unlimited earning potential is starting your own business. That brings us to the next point. Point number 3. Consider starting a side hustle, an additional job to supplement your income. This not only helps increase your income, but it reduces your reliance on a single job and is a great backup in case of job loss. It teaches skills that can improve your resume and make you more valuable in the job market. And it has the potential to turn into a business, which has almost an unlimited earning potential. Find something that you like to do well, and that people would pay for. For me, one of my side hustles was reviewing and editing other people's resumes. I really enjoyed helping people get their dream jobs. I was also confident I could provide the service better than 99% of resume services out there. On top of this, customers were willing to pay me $400 or more for this service. Moving on, let's talk about how to decrease the amount of taxes you pay. The US tax code is long and complicated. There are a lot of obscure and specific ways to reduce taxes. You might have heard of billionaires taking advantage of the tax code and paying $0 in taxes despite making millions of dollars. They are able to do this because they claim depreciation on real estate, deduct business expenses, and borrow against their assets. Unfortunately, for the vast majority of people that work a normal 9 to 5 job, these strategies aren't applicable. There's not as many things normal people can do to decrease their taxes. However, there are 3 strategies that provide the easiest and biggest tax savings. The first is contributing to a 401k. To understand what a 401k is, we first need to understand something called a brokerage account. A brokerage account is a type of investment account where you can buy and sell a variety of different investments. Anyone can open up a brokerage account, put money in, and pick things to invest in. A 401k is also a type of investment account where you can buy and sell a variety of different assets. However, it is set up by your employer or the company that you work for. There are also several restrictions that come with a 401k. You can only put in a certain amount of money each year. For 2025, that limit is $23,500. There are fewer investment options that you can choose from compared to a brokerage account, and there is a penalty for withdrawing money before the retirement age of 59 and a half. Because of this last restriction, the 401k is typically thought of as an investment account for retirement savings. So, why would anyone want to put money into a 401k when they can instead put money into a brokerage account, which doesn't have any of these restrictions? The answer? Because 401k accounts provide tax savings. If you were to put $23,500 into a type of 401k account called a traditional 401k, then you wouldn't have to pay taxes on $23,500 of your income. Let's say you make $100,000 at your job and put $23,500 into a traditional 401k to invest in various things. Instead of paying taxes on $100,000 of income, you'd only pay taxes on $76,500 of income. Depending on what state you live in, this would lower your tax bill by $5,000 to $7,000. The next way to lower your taxes is by contributing to an IRA. The IRA is also a type of investment account where you can buy and sell a variety of different investments. Unlike a 401k, anyone can open up an IRA. It is not set up by an employer. The IRA has several of the same restrictions as a 401k. You can only put in a certain amount of money each year. For 2025, that limit is $7,000. There are fewer investment options that you can choose from compared to a brokerage account, and there is a penalty for withdrawing money before the retirement age of 59 and a half. Because of this last restriction, the IRA is also thought of as an investment account for retirement savings. In fact, IRA stands for Individual Retirement Account. The tax savings that the IRA provides is similar to the 401k. If you were to put $7,000 into a type of IRA account called a traditional IRA, then you wouldn't have to pay taxes on $7,000 of your income. Depending on what state you live in, this could save you thousands of dollars. The third way to lower your taxes is by contributing to an HSA. The HSA is also a type of investment account where you can buy and sell a variety of different investments. However, only people that are on a high deductible health insurance plan are eligible to put money into an HSA. A deductible is the amount of money you have to pay before your health insurance kicks in. A high deductible health insurance plan is one where the deductible is greater than a certain threshold set by the government. For 2025, that is any plan that has a deductible higher than $1,650 for self-coverage or $3,300 for family coverage. The IRA has several restrictions. You can only put in a certain amount of money each year. For 2025, that limit is $4,300 for individuals and $8,550 for families. There are fewer investment options that you can choose from compared to a brokerage account. And money taken out of an HSA must be used on health expenses, or there is a penalty. Because of this last restriction, the HSA is typically thought of as an investment account to pay for medical expenses. In fact, HSA stands for Health Savings Account. However, after age 65, money in the HSA can be used for any reason without any penalty. If you were to put $4,300 into an HSA, then you wouldn't have to pay taxes on $4,300 of your income. If you were to max out how much you put into your 401k, IRA, and HSA, some people can reduce their tax bills by $10,000 or more. The next thing we'll talk about is decreasing spending. This is the first thing most people think of when they're trying to build wealth. While decreasing spending is important, let's be real, this is not going to make you rich. You can only save as much money as you make, so there will always be a limit to how much you can decrease your spending. It is better to focus most of your time and energy on increasing your income. It is much easier to get a $10,000 raise than to reduce spending by $10,000 every year. On top of this, decreasing your spending lowers your quality of life and potentially your happiness in life. So, here's how I would prioritize decreasing spending without affecting your lifestyle and happiness too much. First, stop spending money on things that get you no utility or happiness. This is obvious, but you'd be surprised how much money people waste every year. If you're paying for a gym membership or streaming service that you never use, cancel them. Since you don't use them, this will have no impact on your happiness. Second, for things that you spend money on that you do get utility or happiness from, instead of cutting them out completely, find better deals or cheaper alternatives. If you really like buying designer clothes, wait and buy them when they're on sale. If you really like expensive coffee drinks, try making them at home to see if you can get a similar taste. This will save you money and hopefully not impact your happiness too much. Lastly, if you really need to save more money, you'll have to cut back on things that give you happiness. Hopefully, you'll only have to do this temporarily until you increase your income. The next thing we'll talk about is increasing the rate of return of your investments. We're going to answer the question, what should you be investing in to get the highest rate of return? But first, we need to differentiate between two different types of investing. Investing that requires no effort and investing that requires hands-on work. For the type of investing that requires no effort, there are three main categories: cash, bonds, and stocks. Holding cash is essentially just getting interest on your money. In exchange for depositing your money at a bank, that bank will give you some extra money as a thank you for choosing them. Over the past 30 years, holding cash has historically returned about 2% per year. When you hear about people putting money into savings accounts, money market accounts, purchasing treasury bills, or purchasing CDs, which are short for certificates of deposits, these are all different ways of holding cash. Holding cash is seen as the safest investment because it doesn't lose value during market crashes. The next category are bonds. When you purchase a bond, you are essentially lending money to a company or government. In return, they'll pay you interest and return your money back after a set period of time. Over the past 30 years, investing in bonds has historically returned about 4% per year. Investing in bonds is riskier than holding cash, but generally less risky than stocks. Economic conditions can make the prices of bonds fall, potentially losing you money. The third category are stocks. Stocks are pieces of a company that you can buy. When you purchase a stock, you become a part owner of the company. When the company does well, their stock goes up, and when the company does poorly, their stock goes down. When you sell stocks at a higher price than you bought them for, you've made money. Over the past 30 years, stocks have historically returned about 10% per year. Compared to holding cash and bonds, stocks are the riskiest. Stock prices can fluctuate greatly. Now, I'm going to introduce you to the most well-known and popular investment. It is considered the gold standard of investing, an investment that all other investments are compared to. This is an investment that legendary investor and billionaire Warren Buffett recommends as the best option for most investors. I'm talking about the S&P 500 Index Fund. What is it? The S&P 500 Index Fund is a basket of different stocks. Instead of picking individual stocks to invest in, an index fund lets you invest in hundreds of companies all at once. S&P refers to the financial company Standard & Poor's, which is the company that decides what stocks should be included in the basket. 500 refers to the fact that there are 500 companies in the basket of different stocks. So, the S&P 500 index fund is an investment that consists of 500 of the biggest US companies. These include companies such as Apple, McDonald's, Disney, and Nike. Historically, the S&P 500 has returned about 10% per year. This is the same figure I gave you earlier when we talked about stocks. This is going to upset a lot of people, but you are most likely not going to be able to get higher than the 10% annual rate of return of investing in an S&P 500 index fund with zero effort or work required. Many people have tried picking their own stocks, going after stocks that have the potential to generate annual returns of 30 to 50% or more per year. But here's an alarming statistic for you. In a study done looking at professional investors, these are people who invest other people's money for a living, 80% of them aren't able to beat the S&P 500 after 1 year. And after 20 years, 95% of them failed to beat the S&P 500. In other words, 95% of the time, you would have made more money investing into an S&P 500 index fund than paying a professional investor to manage your money for you. Even for the 5% of professional investors that were able to beat the S&P 500, we don't know how much of that is luck versus skill. With so many investors, there are bound to be some that just get lucky. I wish there was a way to get higher than a 10% annual rate of return consistently over a long period of time, but there isn't. If any investment is promising you a higher than 10% annual rate of return with no effort required, be skeptical because it is likely too good to be true. Next, let's talk about investments that require hands-on work. The investments we talked about so far all required no effort. All you had to do was put money into an investment account, purchase investments, wait, and then sell when you're ready to take your money out. There are investments where you can get higher than a 10% annual rate of return, but it requires hands-on work. For many of these, the work required is equivalent to working a full-time job. Real estate is one way to get higher than 10% annual returns. Common real estate strategies include flipping houses, when you purchase an old beat-up home, renovate it, and then resell it for a profit. Long-term rentals, when you purchase a property and rent it out to a tenant. Airbnb, when you purchase a property and then rent it out to guests that stay for only a few days to a few weeks. All of these real estate investment strategies require much more work than just clicking a few buttons on your computer to purchase an S&P 500 index fund. You'll need to find a property to buy at a good price, complete renovations, find a tenant, and maintain the property. However, one of the biggest advantages of investing in real estate is that you can take on debt, borrowing and using other people's money to help you make more money. This can multiply your rate of return. If you purchase a $500,000 house with cash and the value of the house goes up by 3%, you'd have a 3% annual return on the $500,000 invested. Instead, let's say you put in $100,000 to buy that house and took on $400,000 in debt. If the value of the house goes up by 3%, you'd have a 15% return on the $100,000 invested. Because of debt, you 5x'd your return. Another example of an investment that requires hands-on work that can get higher than 10% annual rate of return is starting your own business. So far, we've only covered holding cash, bonds, stocks, and real estate. However, there are so many more things that you could invest in. Cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin and Ethereum, art and collectibles, land, and commodities such as gold, silver, and oil. Many investors still prefer investing in an S&P 500 index fund over these alternative investments for various reasons. Some of these alternative investments have limited historical data, so it's hard to tell how they will perform over a long period of time. Some of these alternative investments lack diversification. You may be putting all your eggs in one basket, which is extremely risky. And some of these alternative investments can be harder to buy and sell quickly, so you may be stuck with them for a while. So, if you do decide to invest in these, be careful. The long-term annual rates of return are unclear and can be extremely volatile. The last thing we'll talk about is how to increase the length of time that you are investing for. Time compounds wealth. The longer you invest, the faster and faster your money grows. Money doesn't grow linearly, it grows exponentially. Let's take a look at an example that illustrates how time compounds wealth. Let's say that you have a magical penny that doubles in value every day. While 1 cent doesn't sound like much at first, guess how long it would take for the penny to reach $1 million. After just 27 days, that penny would be worth $1,342,177.28. Here's another example to illustrate how money grows exponentially. If you were to invest $10,000 per year into an S&P 500 index fund, it'd take you almost 8 years to reach $100,000. However, to reach the next milestone of $200,000, it'd take you about 5 years. And by the time you have $900,000, getting the last $100,000 to reach $1 million would take just 1 year. If you look at the total length of time it takes to reach $1 million in this example, reaching the $100,000 milestone takes 25% of the total time. This is why a lot of people say that the first $100,000 you save up is the hardest. Let's take a look at one last example. When you invest in an S&P 500 index fund, your money roughly doubles every 7 years. Every 7 years that you delay investing, you are giving up one doubling. In other words, you are cutting your wealth in half. If you start investing 7 years later than someone else who makes, spends, and invests the same amount as you will have half the amount of wealth that they have. So, how do you increase the length of time that you invest for? Start investing as early as you can. Every year that you can start investing earlier makes a significant difference on how much wealth you can build. We've covered a lot of information. To wrap all of this up, remember that there are only 5 things you need to do to build wealth. Increase income. Consider switching jobs every few years, switching to more lucrative careers, and starting a side hustle. Decrease taxes. Take advantage of 401ks, IRAs, and HSAs to reduce your taxable income. Decrease spending. Stop buying things that don't give you utility or happiness. For things that do give you utility or happiness, try to find better deals or cheaper alternatives. Increase rate of return. The highest annual return you can realistically expect over the long run with zero effort is 10% by investing in an S&P 500 index fund. Increase time. Start investing as early as you can. If you found this video helpful, I'd really appreciate it if you could like this video, subscribe, and share this with your friends and family. Let's help as many people as possible live richer, fuller lives and stop gatekeeping this information. If you have any questions about personal finance, or if there is a topic you want to see a video on, leave a comment below. I'll try to respond to every single comment. Last but not least, I'm working on creating the world's best personal finance course. This would be a longer version of this video where I cover more topics and go into more details of exactly how to save, invest, reduce taxes, and increase income. If you want to be a part of this, check out the link in the video description below. I'd love to get your feedback and thoughts.